NFL Week 8. Let's start on some Thursday Night Football, and we had the Packers defeating the Cardinals 24-21 in what I thought was a really, really fun game to watch, especially on a Thursday night. Even though I feel like this game was the epitome of why Thursday Night Football is like a really bad idea. Short weeks, players get injured, and people aren't able to play because of unforeseen circumstances. It really sucks. Thursday Night Football is a bad idea. Yeah, the players afterwards get an entire week off, but man, it's really bad on their body to play 2 football games in 4 days, even though us as the consumers are going to continually watch it. However, it was a really fun game. I thought defensively both teams had a fantastic game. The Cardinals, they couldn't stop AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones really, because that running game of the Packers was very, very good. But, other than that, I thought the Cardinals defense played well, and even the Packers offensively. I know it's really hard for both to play well. I thought the Cardinals defense played well, but I also think that the Packers offense played very well without Devontae Adams. As well as they could. There was definitely times when I felt like Aaron Rodgers missed Devontae Adams at parts during the game. But for the circumstances of being Thursday Night Football, injuries, I thought both defenses really stepped up. Now the Cardinals defensively, I should say, were put in a bind because of their offense, because Kyler Murray had that interception. They set up a short field, and then Rondale Moore muffed a punt, which had the Packers again on another short field. But other than that, I thought both teams honestly played very well. Kyler Murray, I know I say that, and then Kyler Murray didn't really have his best game as a pro, but I'm not gonna, I don't think any less of either of these two teams, I'll be honest, because I thought, towards the end of the game, second half, the Packers, really couldn't be stopped, but they only really had 3 drives, I think, all of the second half. And the Cardinals, they tried to make it close. They got a goal line stand, stopped the Packers on 4th and 1, drove the ball down 99 yards, but then AJ Green kind of cost them the game by completely messing up the route, and the guy that intercepted the ball happened to be on the Cardinals practice squad earlier this year, so it's kind of fitting that he ended the Cardinals undefeated streak. But yeah, it's a good Thursday Night Football game for what we had on paper. The injuries sucked. Tunyon got hurt, and then it wasn't pretty. But it was fun to watch. I thought both teams played well. I don't think any less of either of these two teams. It was a good watch. Good defensive battle, I thought, for good parts. Good offensive play for most parts. DeAndre Hopkins did have a beautiful catch, at the first half that, gave the Cardinals the lead, and I think the only lead they had for the game. But for, what we were given, I thought it was a really solid game and for Thursday Night Football. All right, now we are on to the Sunday games. Now, I'm recording the Sunday game section separately, so, a lot of this stuff, I made my recap notes and everything else, but then right when I was making it, there was a lot of crazy things that came out, like Derrick Henry got injured and Von Miller got traded. So yeah, there was just a lot of craziness. But to sum up the Sunday games, it was just a day of backup quarterbacks, in my opinion, some bad officiating, and some really bad clock management and game management. So let's start off with the Panthers and Falcons. Panthers won 19-13. Really, what is there to say about this game? Falcons, are not a good football team. Offensively, they couldn't do anything. The best thing that happened offensively, which I don't mean that in an actual good thing, Matt Ryan got a bloody hand after he got stepped on. But yeah, the Falcons-Panthers offenses are just not very good. Calvin Ridley out definitely feels like it's going to hurt the Falcons for a little bit. They still do have Cordell Patterson, and they have Kyle Pitts, who is playing well, but I don't think he did very much in this game. Yeah, Sam Darnold took a nasty hit. Looked like he got concussed. P.J. Walker had to come in for him. Yeah, this game was bad. This game, I don't think anybody's going to be talking about it, other than bringing up Matt Ryan's bloody hand again. Next, we have the Titans defeating the Colts 34-31 in overtime. And man, Carson Wentz is... He's so... What are the words to describe him? He literally thinks he can make every throw underneath the sun. Each week, I kid you not, each week he throws a terrible interception, and then next week he tops that. Like this week, he had one of the worst interceptions I have ever seen. Like we said that last week. And then this week, he literally just hucks it up in the air, Titans intercept it, and it was a touchdown for the Titans. It's like, that basically cost them the game. Well, he doesn't throw many interceptions. But gosh, when Carson Wentz throws interceptions, he for sure makes sure they count, and people know that, hey, I threw an interception. It's not going to be one of those, late in the game interceptions, where people are going to forget about it. He makes you remember every interception that he throws. He's not going to make you forget. But yeah, the Colts in this game, they started hot offensively. They scored a quick touchdown early on in the first quarter. Their defense got an interception, got the ball back, and then the Colts scored another touchdown. A.J. Brown, for the Titans at least, was having a very good game. He's going to have to step up because, as I mentioned, Derrick Henry being out for the season is really going to hurt them. And so, yeah, there's going to be a couple teams on the market for some running backs. And I think I even suggested on Twitter that the Titans need to be going for one of the two, either Hunt or Johnson from the Browns. I think they need to be making some phone calls to try to be getting some running backs on this team. And I know this is going to go up the day of the trade deadline, so this may come out of date really quickly. That's just how I feel. But yeah, this game, Tannehill, A.J. Brown played solid. Like I said, Carson Wentz is just so good at throwing interceptions, but the Colts' best offensive play is the underthrown defensive pass interference call. That get play has worked wonderful for the Colts the last couple weeks. I mean, they did it against the 49ers, and then they did it this week against the Titans. That is literally the only play that seems to work for the Colts right now, is the underthrown and ball that, gets called for defensive pass interference, because what's the defender honestly supposed to do? But yeah, they got the game went into overtime. The Colts were able to, after you get that terrible interception, get it into overtime. But in overtime, Wentz threw another interception, and then Randy Bullock of the Titans kicked the game-winning field goal. So, yeah, Carson Wentz is just really, really good at making really stupid plays. Next, we have the Dolphins and Bills. Bills won 26-11. I mean, for me, the Dolphins' offensive line is god-awful. They're doing nothing to help Tua. Yeah, Tua had his weekly really bad interception. I don't want to hear it. I still think Tua is a really good quarterback. I think he just needs help. His weapons on the outside, I feel like he has really good receivers. I feel like his offensive line is terrible, and I don't know if necessarily they're making the best play calls for him. And like I said, I know I can acknowledge that he made a terrible throw, but I still think Tua is really good. Or not really good. He has a chance to be good, and I don't understand people giving up on him so soon. But thank God the trade deadline is coming up, because the Dolphins are forced to stick with Tua. So I hope he can prove that he can be, a good piece for the Dolphins in the future. The Dolphins defense, I think, played very solid. They completely blew coverage, for a wide open touchdown for the Bills. Like I said, Tua obviously has room to improve. I think he's good, but the Dolphins offense didn't necessarily help out the defense very much, because the Dolphins defense played very solid all game. They played, very well all game, held them to 3 points, played really good 3 quarters, but the Dolphins offense couldn't hold, or the defense couldn't hold the entire game. You can't expect a defense to hold all game long when your offense isn't doing anything. The Bills didn't really look like the offensive firepower, the offensive, team that they have been, but the Bills came out with the win against Miami. Next, we had the Bengals Jets. The Jets won 30. I literally just had to take a double take. I completely the Jets won 34-31. I really had to do a double take when I was reading the notes there. The Bengals literally played like this was their bye week. They just didn't, their defense didn't want to play. Credit to Mike White, started 11 for 11, had a really good game, led the Jets to the win. He was my player of the week, to be honest. Early on, the Bengals were able to get a couple turnovers off the Jets, but I feel like their red zone offense wasn't very good. They weren't able to capitalize and get points. I think they had a 4th down that they failed to get. I thought Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense had a good game, but again, you can't expect, and it goes both ways. You can't expect the offense to do everything and then the defense take the week off like the Bengals did. But their defense did cause a few turnovers, but man, they must have read those headlines, because they're like, oh, we're good, we can take the week off. They blew an 11-point lead in the final 5 minutes of game. That I blame that fully on Zach Taylor. That was some terrible management. It was less than 5 minutes left of the game, and they decided to run or throw the football, and Joe Burrow threw an interception. That was not on Joe Burrow. That is some awful play calling by Zach Taylor. That was really stupid. And to make it even worse, that was the Jets' first interception all year. And then on the preceding drive, Jets scored a touchdown, and they ran what they probably called the Jet Special or New York Special or the Sad Special, whichever you want to. I will say though, on the final drive of the game, the Bengals did get screwed on a third down on an unnecessary roughness call. Yeah, the refs kind of blew that one, but at the same time, blowing an 11-point lead in the final 5 minutes of game, that's on the team. You can't play terrible for 3.5 quarters and then expect the refs to bail you out. So congrats to the Jets on the win. It looks like the Bengals took this bye week literally and just decided not to play against the Jets. Next, you had the Steelers defeating the Browns 15-10. Myles Garrett came into the game looking like a Grim Reaper or whatever it was. I'm not into this horror culture. I'm sorry. The Steelers are the first thing that came to my mind about this game. The Steelers are stupid. They lost their kicker because they thought it was a funny idea to go for a fake field goal early on in the game. That means they were without their kicker for 3.5 quarters. And because they were out their kicker for 3.5 quarters, they had to go for 2 the rest of the game. Big Ben ran a quarterback draw for a 2-point conversion that didn't count, but that was the slowest I've ever seen somebody run on a 2-point conversion. But yeah, Big Ben did have a nice throw to the back of the end zone to one of his receivers. I don't know if it was his tight end or receiver, but it looked really sweet. In the fourth quarter, it took the lead. The Browns were just a bad offense. Jarvis had a bad game, fumbled the ball, dropped passes. OBJ and Baker just don't play well together. And Baker might be a tough dude, but man, they played really bad. Next, we have the Eagles-Lions. Eagles won 44-6. I hate the Lions. Why? This is my fault for believing the hype. I really thought this week was the week, and then the Eagles probably read our headlines and were like, yeah, you guys talk crap about us, well, we're going to come out there and win this. And yeah, this whole toughness narrative, bull crap, play hard, yeah, I don't care. They're a bad football team. Jared Goff was carried by Sean McVay during his time in LA. The Rams are a useless, hopeless, terrible team. The Eagles could do literally whatever they wanted most of the game. Jalen Hurts ran the ball well. And the best thing the Lions did this entire game was not get shut out. That's about all they did well. Jared Goff is a terrible quarterback. Dan Campbell, I don't care about his press conferences anymore. The Lions are a bad football team, and it's my fault for picking them. Next, you have the Rams, I say dominating the Texans, 38-22. Yeah, they destroyed them. If you're a Rams bettor, I'm sure you're pissed because they allowed the Texans to backdoor cover that game, but whatever. Who cares? The game was over after 3 quarters. I don't think it really matters. But yeah, Matthew Stafford's still an MVP favorite. Sean McVay has never lost a game when leading at half still. Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Robert Woods, yeah. The Rams are a good team, and I made a video earlier yesterday that Von Miller is now on that team. So yeah, this team is just not fair. The Rams are a really good football team, and I think it's safe to say at this point that the Rams were the one holding back Matthew Stafford. Next, we have the 49ers defeating the Bears 33-22. By far, this was Justin Fields' best game. He had some sweet throws rolling outside the pocket. He had a 4th-and-1 run where he made literally everybody miss. That was some good, football by Justin Fields there. And this is going to sound probably like a hot take, and I don't care, but this game might have put Matt Nagy on the hot seat, and he wasn't even there to coach the game. No, somebody shouldn't lose their job because they physically weren't able to be there. But man, Matt Nagy this kind of shows that maybe Matt Nagy was holding back Justin Fields a bit because he played his best game by far. Now in the second half, the Bears really couldn't do much. They scored a touchdown in the second half, and that was the Justin Fields run. But I mean, other than that, they weren't really able to do much. And Deebo Samuel, man, he's got to be underrated by a lot of people. He's got to be. He had another huge game. I'm not saying he's better than Jerry Rice, but numbers-wise, he's better than Jerry Rice to start the season as a 49er. And Jimmy Garoppolo's out here looking like a power back. He ran for 2 touchdowns. I'm like, man. I mean, both teams, and the score, it's a 10-point swing. But I think both teams played well. This was, Justin Fields' best game, and the 49ers aren't that bad. I don't know what to make of the 49ers. I still don't. I don't know what to make of the Bears. Well, the Bears are bad. But I don't know what to make of these. But I think both of these teams played a really good game. Next, we have the Patriots-Chargers. The Patriots won 27-24. Justin Fields gets owned by the Patriots every time they play. He threw another pick six, and that Patriots defense played well against him all day. I mean, really, the biggest play they gave up was that really long running play. Mac Jones, I think I've seen people on sports TV, Nick Wright, even though I really like him, he says that Mac Jones isn't very good. I have to disagree completely. Yeah, the numbers aren't flashy, but if you watch the game, he's not doing anything bad to cause the team to lose. And that's all you can ask of a rookie quarterback. Stats aren't everything. I think actually seeing them play is a good way to do it. Look at Kirk Cousins, for example. He played like trash. His stats look a little bit better than Mac Jones's. But who would you rather have right now? Mac Jones doesn't make mistakes. Kirk Cousins doesn't make mistakes, but he's not a rookie, so we expect more from him. But yeah, Mac Jones for a rookie, he's playing really well. The Patriots are going to get into that territory again where people hate him, but for some reason I can't get on that bandwagon. I'm a huge fan for some reason of the Patriots right now. And Jacoby Myers, finally, he got into the end zone, but it wasn't a receiving touchdown. It was a 2-point conversion. That poor man cannot get that touchdown. He'll get it. He will get it. Next, we have the Jags getting absolutely dominated by the Seahawks 31-7. Yeah, Geno and the Seahawks did this week what I felt like they should have done last week to the Saints, because DK and Tyler Lockett both had really, really good games. Like Tyler Lockett, DK, that whole Seattle offense looked awesome today. I don't care that they were playing the Jags. You're a good offense. You have playmakers. Get them in their hands, and they'll play good. It was just another. And then, like I said, day of the backup quarterback, Geno Smith, another backup quarterback, had another really good game for, America's favorite backup quarterbacks. Yeah, Jags still haven't won in America since week 1 last year. They're bad. Trevor Lawrence is not having a good year. And that onside kick returned by the Seahawks is basically the epitome of the Jags season and how their franchise is. They try to do something, and they screw it up. Next, you have the Saints defeating the Bucs 36-27. Jameis Winston had a terrible look in the injury. Obviously, we hope he's okay. And Antoine Winfield, he is such a moron. He literally was mocking Winston's injury. I mean, the interception didn't count because there was a penalty that called it back. But man, why do people do that? Tom Brady had probably one of his worst games this is his worst game of the season. He had 3 turnovers, a fumble, 2 interceptions. One of them was a pick six at the end of the game that kind of sealed it. Trevor Siemian did come in, played well for the Saints, did really what he was asked to win the game. It's really hard, as a backup quarterback playing against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to come and get that win. But man, that Saints defense, they came to play. They gave up a few good big plays. One was definitely a deep pass to Mike Evans that was for a touchdown. But other than that, I mean, the Saints basically own the Buccaneers in the regular season. Now, in the playoffs, that's a different story, but right now, the Bucs are owned by the Saints in the regular season, and Tom Brady struggles against the Saints in the regular season. It's so weird. Next, we have the Broncos defeating Washington 17-10. I don't care about this game. I thought this game was the epitome of everything bad with football. Both teams are bad. I mean, in the fourth quarter, man, the Broncos did everything they could to try to lose this game. Their game management was so bad. They ran the ball with Melvin Gordon a couple times, and then they threw it, I think, once. And then Melvin Gordon fumbled, but they're lucky they're playing Washington, whose offense really isn't that good. I was high on Taylor Heineke, but that's what I get for watching Washington beat the Jets, because if it wasn't for an offside, they would have lost that game. Or not the Jets, the Giants. But yeah, that's my fault for being so high on Taylor Heineke. I think I'm off that train. I guess me watching that playoff game last year is still hanging high above my head. That's my fault. But yeah, Vic Fangio, I'm not a Broncos fan, but I assume Broncos fans don't like him at all. This team is bad, and like I said earlier, they just traded away one of their best defensive players, and I thought they were a quarterback, well, maybe a quarterback and a head coach away at this point from winning. But yeah, I mean, the Broncos were able to block 2 field goals, blew it of Washington's not having a good couple of weeks. I mean, he's been struggling. But yeah, I don't care about either one of these teams. Broncos are bad. Washington's bad. Their seasons obviously are over because the Broncos are trading away their best players. And on Sunday Night Football, we had the Cowboys defeating the Vikings 20-16. I really think the Cowboys played their guts out. Cooper Rush had a very good game. He had 2 turnovers, and when you have a rookie quarterback, well, not really a rookie quarterback, but a quarterback who hasn't played since 2017, who's a career backup, doesn't play, has 2 interceptions, and not 2 interceptions, 2 turnovers. Now, one of them was Tony Pollard's fault. Can't really blame him for that one. But when you have, 2 interceptions from a backup or 2 turnovers from a backup quarterback, that usually spells disaster. But that didn't. I mean, they were playing the Vikings, and Kirk Cousins had an awful game. It was so bad. But yeah, I mean, for a team to give the ball over 2 times and still win it with a backup, I thought the Cowboys had a really good game, and I think they are a legit team. That defense is so much better than last year. That defense plays so fast. Diggs did have a couple mistakes in this game, blowing some coverages, but man, other than that, this Cowboys defense plays really fast, and it's really nice to see. And then, Cooper Rush was able to hit Amari Cooper for the game-winning touchdown. He also hit Cedric Wilson for a deep 73-yard touchdown. Cooper Rush, like I was saying, did have a good game. Yeah, the Vikings were bad. They had a drive that had 3 penalties on it that were against the Cowboys that shouldn't have been penalties, man. That drive was so stupid, but the Vikings are so bad they couldn't even score a touchdown. They were only able to get a field goal. Kirk Cousins had a really, really bad game. He had one good drive on the opening, one good drive all night, and it was the opening drive. And their clock management at the end of the game made absolutely no sense. Like, it really didn't. They had a timeout and didn't use it, and they had no idea what they were doing at the end of the first half. The Vikings are a bad team, and the Cowboys are definitely good spot defensively and offensively when Dak comes back, I think. And then another note on the Saints game that I completely forgot to mention. Their clock management was also pretty bad, that I thought they were going to give up the game. They ran 3 straight passing plays. I think kicked a field goal or did something that gave Brady enough time, but luckily their defense came up with that pick 6. But man, what the Saints were doing at the end of that game really scared me, that I thought they were actively trying to lose that game. All right, and then now we are on to Monday Night Football. God, I'm so glad that game is over. I just finished watching it. I'm recording this literally just after I finished it. Usually I wait until the next day, but since I'm a Chiefs fan and they played, I wanted to see it or talk about it. But man, that game was awful by both teams. I mean, penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. It literally felt like neither team wanted to win. Daniel Sorensen had some terrible penalties. There was a roughing the passer call on Snead, and it's just like, it just felt like a lot of the Giants' drives were manufactured off of Chiefs penalties, and then, Giants, having penalties too. They have a taunting penalty, an offside penalty that kind of screwed them, and then, God, these teams, man, it was just bad. A lot of penalties, and I mean, the Chiefs did some things good. I mean, their defense played fine. It's definitely played much better the last few weeks. It was on a historically bad pace. I knew that couldn't continue, and they finally did something this game. The last 3 games, and if anything, the Titans game, they gave up a boatload of yards passing to Ryan Tannehill, but, the last 3 games, at least running the ball, they were able to, play, I think, pretty well. Willie Gay had a really good game, had an interception. And then, turnovers are still the Chiefs' issue. I think it's just their team's identity at this point. They had another another interception that wasn't even Mahomes' fault. It dropped off of McKinnon's helmet, or, bounced off McKinnon's helmet, caused an interception. And Travis Kelce, for some reason, got the yips and fumbled the ball. But, man, the Chiefs are lucky that they played the Giants tonight, because if they played the Packers at all, they would have gotten blown out bad. Like, it was bad. The Chiefs are honestly really lucky they played the Giants this week. They're going to have to get their stuff together whenever they play the Packers next week, or it's going to be a long, long, long game for them next week. I mean, Frank Clark got the game-sealing, fumble at the end. After a really rough season, he finally made a play. Chris Jones, I think, made some disruptive plays, which is something we haven't really seen from him all year. But yeah, the Chiefs' first drive of the game, before they threw the interception and before they went all cute and tried to do some trickery, that's what the offense is going to have to do at this point, because the Chiefs were really able to run the ball well. Derek Gore had a really, really good game. Darrell Williams was able to, bust through some holes. I mean, the Chiefs are able to, I feel like, run the ball really, really well. They just don't do it very much. But I think that even if they do run the ball, every team's still going to play those really two deep safeties. And, instead of, bringing the safeties forward whenever the Chiefs are, going to pass or run the ball, the Chiefs or the defenses are just going to stack the box and make them run. They're not moving those safeties. They played 15, 20 yards off the ball all night. Like, there was no stop. Like, they were not giving up that deep pass. The Giants were not going to do it. But yeah, this game was just penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. Like, it was just bad. And yeah, I'm really glad this game was over. The Chiefs, I hope, have a very good game, or very good week of practice, because they need to have a good game against the Packers next week. Because if they can't beat the Packers or even be close, honestly, I'd say they need to beat the Packers. But if they lose to the Packers, they're basically just going to be one of those middle-of-the-road teams that beats the bad teams like they're supposed to, but they can't beat the good teams. So, I mean, the Chiefs are finally at 500. They're still not clicking. That offense, the Chiefs' offense, is not clicked all year. Didn't click in this game. They have a lot of work to do, but a win is a win, and I'm glad the Chiefs got the win.